3:15 a.m. The digital clock on my nightstand glowed like a judgment, and I was wide awake listening to my wife's voice drift up from the kitchen below. Carla thought I was asleep. She always thought I was asleep. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Of course I'm talking to other guys, she said, her voice carrying that particular laugh, the one that used to make me feel like I was in on some private joke. Now it just made my stomach turn. I'm not going to limit myself to just one option, you know? Always nice to hear your wife say you aren't even her best option before sunrise. Pairs well with burnt coffee and the slow realization that your marriage is a sham. I slipped out of bed, bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. 15 years of marriage had taught me exactly which boards creaked and which ones would let me move like a ghost through our cozy New England home. The house we'd bought together, painted together, filled with memories that apparently meant more to me than to her. Alex is so predictable, Carla continued, and I froze at the top of the stairs. He comes home, watches his shows, tinkers in that stupid workshop. God, sometimes I feel like I'm married to a piece of furniture. The person on the other end must have said something funny, because Carla laughed again. That same laugh that had made me fall in love with her at a company barbecue 12 years ago. I crept down 3 more steps, close enough to see her silhouette in the kitchen doorway. She was wearing the red silk robe I'd bought her for Christmas, the one she claimed made her feel sophisticated. In the blue glow of her phone screen, she looked like a stranger. "Jared, you're terrible," she said, and my blood went cold. Jared Lane, I knew that name. Real estate broker, drove a BMW, had been sniffing around Carla's office parties for months. But you're right, I deserve better than settling for comfortable. Comfortable. 15 years of marriage, and I was comfortable. Like an old couch she was ready to donate to Goodwill. "Tomorrow night works perfect," she continued. "Alex has his poker game with the guys. He'll be out until midnight, guaranteed. We can finally have some real time together." My poker game. The one I'd been going to every Thursday for 3 years. The one she always complained about, saying I should spend more time at home with her. Now I understood why she'd stopped complaining. I backed up the stairs, each step careful and calculated. My hands were shaking, but my mind was crystal clear. In my workshop, my stupid workshop, I had everything I needed: cameras, recording equipment, computers. The benefits of being the IT guy for a security company weren't lost on me. Back in our bedroom, I grabbed my laptop and opened it on the bathroom floor, the fan noise covered by running water. Carla's voice was still audible through the heating vents, our old house's quirky ventilation system that she always complained about. Tonight, it was my best friend. I started recording everything. Every laugh, every plan, every casual dismissal of our marriage. She talked for another 20 minutes, making plans with Jared, complaining about me, discussing other options she was keeping warm. When she finally hung up, I heard her footsteps on the stairs. I closed the laptop, slipped back into bed, and pretended to be the predictable, comfortable husband she thought she knew. Carla slid into bed beside me, smelling like the expensive perfume she claimed was just for special occasions. Apparently, late-night calls with other men qualified. "Sleep well, honey," she whispered, pressing a kiss to my shoulder. "Always do," I replied, staring at the ceiling in the dark. But I wasn't sleeping. I was planning. The next morning, Carla was all smiles and coffee kisses, playing the perfect wife role she'd apparently been rehearsing for years. She wore her navy business suit, the one that made her feel powerful, she'd told me once, and hummed while she made breakfast. "You seem happy this morning," I said, accepting the cup of coffee she offered. It wasn't burnt for once. "Just looking forward to the day," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Big presentation at work. You know how I get when I'm focused on something important." Important? Like Jared Lane. "Don't forget, poker night tonight." I said casually. Might run late. Of course, honey. You have fun with your little boys' club. She patted my cheek like I was a child asking permission to play outside. I'll probably just stay in, catch up on some reading. Reading. Right. After she left for work, I had 4 hours before I needed to be at the office. 4 hours to turn into a detective in my own home. I started in our bedroom, looking for the obvious hiding spots first. Carla wasn't particularly creative, but she was methodical. I found the backup phone in the kitchen, tucked inside an empty cereal box in the pantry. A cheap smartphone with a cracked screen, the kind you could buy with cash at any convenience store. The kind you used when you didn't want your husband seeing your phone bill. The phone was a goldmine. Months of messages with Jared, photos I definitely didn't want to see, and a contact list that included 3 other men I recognized from around town. My wife wasn't just having an affair. She was running a whole relationship portfolio. I connected the phone to my laptop and downloaded everything. Messages, photos, call logs, even her browsing history. The woman who complained about me spending too much time on technology had been living a double digital life. One message thread made my stomach turn. Jared. What if Alex finds out? Carla. He won't. He's completely clueless. Honestly, I could probably bring you home for dinner and he'd just ask if you wanted to watch the game with him. Jared. You're terrible. I love it. Carla. He's a good man, but he's boring, safe, predictable. Sometimes a girl needs excitement. Jared. After tonight, you'll have all the excitement you can handle. I screenshot everything, organized it into folders, and uploaded it all to a secure cloud account. Then I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it, making sure the cereal box looked undisturbed. My workshop was in the basement, a cluttered space filled with computer equipment, tools, and projects in various stages of completion. Carla rarely came down here. She said it smelled like man cave and broken dreams. Today, it smelled like opportunity. I spent the next 2 hours setting up surveillance equipment throughout the house. Tiny cameras in the living room and kitchen, audio recorders in the bedroom and hallway. Nothing illegal. It was my house too, and Massachusetts law was on my side as long as I didn't record anyone who had a reasonable expectation of privacy. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Gina. Still on for poker tonight? Tommy's bringing his famous chili dip. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, Actually, can we move it to next week? Something came up. Everything okay? Just need to take care of some things at home. Uh-oh. Trouble in paradise? Gina had always been perceptive. She tended bar at Murphy's downtown and had a sixth sense for relationship drama. She'd also never particularly liked Carla, though she'd never said why. Nothing I can't handle, I replied. Famous last words, call me if you need backup. Backup. The idea had merit. I spent the rest of the morning researching Jared Lane, social media profiles, business records, property listings. The man loved to show off. Expensive cars, fancy restaurants, photos with different women every few months. He had a type, married, bored, looking for excitement. My wife was just another conquest to him, a box to check on his way to whatever came next. By the time I left for work, I had a complete dossier on my wife's affair and a plan forming in my head. Not revenge, exactly. Justice. At the office, I couldn't concentrate on code reviews and server maintenance. My mind kept drifting to Carla, probably texting Jared between meetings, counting down the hours until she could play out her fantasy of excitement and passion. My coworker Dave noticed my distraction. You okay, Alex? You look like someone stole your lunch money. Just tired, I said. Didn't sleep well. Maybe you should head home early. Get some rest before poker night. I almost laughed. Yeah, maybe I will. But I wasn't going home to rest. I was going home to watch my marriage officially end, and to make sure I had every detail documented for what came next. I got home at 4:30, 2 hours earlier than usual. Carla's car wasn't in the driveway yet, She'd probably gone home to freshen up for her big evening. I used the time to check my surveillance equipment and position myself in the basement workshop where I could monitor everything without being seen. At 5:15, Carla's Honda pulled into the driveway. I watched through the basement window as she sat in the car for a moment, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror. She was wearing a different outfit than she'd left in that morning, a black dress I'd never seen before, probably purchased during her lunch break. She came through the front door like she was walking onto a stage. "Alex, are you home?" she called out, her voice pitched higher than usual. "Down in the workshop," I called back, "just finishing up a project." I heard her heels clicking across the hardwood floor above me, moving toward our bedroom. Through the audio feed, I could hear her opening drawers, the sound of makeup containers clacking against the bathroom counter. At 6 o'clock, she appeared at the top of the basement stairs. "Honey, I'm going to run some errands," she said. "Grocery store, maybe stop by Sarah's house to return that book I borrowed." Sarah, her co-worker who'd been out of town for 2 weeks. I'd seen the Facebook posts from Sarah's vacation in Florida. "Sounds good," I said, not looking up from my computer screen. "I'll probably head out around 7 for poker." "Perfect. Don't wait up for me. You know how Sarah and I get when we start talking." I finally looked up at her. The black dress was stunning, her makeup flawless, her hair styled in a way that had definitely required professional help. She looked beautiful. She looked like she was going on the most important date of her life. "You look nice," I said. "Just for errands?" She laughed. That same laugh from the phone call. "A girl likes to look good even for the grocery store. You never know who you might run into." "True. Have fun." She hesitated at the top of the stairs, and for a moment, I thought she might confess everything. Come clean, apologize, give us a chance to work through this like adults. Instead, she blew me a kiss and said, "Love you, honey." "Love you too," I replied, and meant it. That was the worst part. I still loved her, even knowing what she was about to do. I listened to her drive away, then switched to the external cameras I'd positioned around our property. Her car headed toward downtown, toward the fancy hotel district, where Jared had probably booked a room. Instead of following her, I drove to Murphy's bar. Gina was behind the bar, polishing glasses and chatting with the early evening crowd. She looked up when I walked in, her expression immediately shifting to concern. "Thought you canceled poker night," she said. "I did. I need a drink and someone to talk to." She poured me a whiskey without asking what I wanted. Talk. I told her everything. The phone call, the backup phone, the months of lies. Gina listened without interruption, her expression growing darker with each detail. "Jesus, Alex. I'm sorry. The thing is, I'm not even surprised. Part of me has known for months. I just didn't want to admit it." "What are you going to do?" I took a long sip of whiskey. "I'm going to make sure everyone knows who Carla really is." Gina raised an eyebrow. "Everyone?" "This is a small town, Gina. People talk. And when they find out that the respectable HR manager has been running around behind her husband's back, well, let's just say her reputation is going to take a hit." "And Jared?" "Him too. Especially him." Gina leaned across the bar. "What do you need from me?" "Information. You know everyone in this town, hear all the gossip. I need to know who else knows about this affair, who might be sympathetic to my side, and who has their own grudges against Jared Lane." "Give me 24 hours, she said. "I'll have everything you need." I finished my drink and drove home, timing my arrival for just after 10 o'clock. Carla's car wasn't in the driveway. According to my phone's tracking app, the one we'd installed for safety that she'd forgotten about, she was still at the hotel downtown. I spent the evening reviewing the surveillance footage from earlier, making sure I had clear evidence of her lies and preparations. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Carla came home at 11:30, slipping into bed beside me with the careful movements of someone trying not to wake a sleeping spouse. She smelled like expensive cologne, not mine, and her hair was mussed despite her attempts to fix it. How was Sarah? I asked quietly. She jumped slightly. I thought you were asleep. Just dozed off. How was your evening? Good. We talked for hours. You know how it is. I do, I said. Sleep well, honey. But neither of us slept well that night. She was probably thinking about Jared, planning their next encounter. I was thinking about justice and how sweet it was going to taste. The next morning, Carla was distracted and glowing. She hummed in the shower, spent extra time on her makeup, and actually made pancakes for breakfast, something she hadn't done in months. You seem happy, I observed, cutting into the stack she'd placed in front of me. Just feeling good about life, she said, sitting across from me with her own plate. Sometimes you need a reminder that there's excitement out there, you know? Absolutely. Life's too short to settle for boring. She looked at me sharply, but I kept my expression neutral, focused on my breakfast. Exactly, she said after a moment. I'm glad you understand. After she left for work, I called in sick and drove to Murphy's. Gina was already there, preparing for the lunch rush, but the bar was empty except for old Mr. Patterson nursing his morning beer and reading yesterday's newspaper. You look like hell, Gina said by way of greeting. Didn't sleep much? What did you find out? She poured me coffee and slid a manila folder across the bar. Jared Lane is not a popular man in this town. 3 marriages, 2 messy divorces, and a reputation for going after other men's wives. I opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots from social media, copies of newspaper articles about his divorce proceedings, and a handwritten list of names. The list is women he's been linked with in the past 2 years, Gina explained. All married, all ended badly. Mrs. Henderson at the flower shop, Jennifer Walsh from the bank, that new teacher at the elementary school. Jesus. It gets better. His real estate business is struggling. He owes money all over town, and there are rumors about some shady deals that might interest the state licensing board. I studied the list of names, recognizing most of them. Small-town dynamics meant everyone was connected somehow, these women's husbands, their friends, their families. If handled correctly, this information could destroy Jared's reputation and business in a matter of days. What about Carla? Does anyone know about the affair yet? Not specifically, but people have noticed changes. She's been showing up to town events alone, claiming you're always busy with work. She's been more friendly with men at social gatherings. People are starting to talk. Good. Let them talk. Gina leaned against the bar. Alex, I have to ask. Are you sure about this? Once you start down this road, there's no going back. Your marriage will be over. My marriage is already over. Carla ended it the moment she decided I wasn't enough for her. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. And then what? You want her back? I thought about that for a long moment. No, I want her to understand that actions have consequences. I want Jared to learn that other men's wives aren't toys for him to play with, and I want this town to know who they really are. Gina nodded slowly. Then let's burn it all down. We spent the next 2 hours planning. Gina knew the social dynamics of our town better than anyone, who influenced whom, which gossip networks were most effective, how to plant information so it would spread naturally. The key is making it look organic, she explained. If people think you're orchestrating a revenge campaign, they'll sympathize with Carla. But if they discover the truth themselves, they'll feel betrayed by her lies. How do we do that? We start with the wives of the other women Jared has been with. They'll be very interested to know he's moved on to a new target. Then we let Mrs. Harkness accidentally see something that confirms their suspicions. Mrs. Harkness was our 70-year-old neighbor who knew everything that happened within a 3-block radius. She was also the unofficial town crier, spreading news faster than the internet. What kind of something? Leave that to me. But first, we need more evidence. Can you get photos of them together? I thought about the surveillance equipment, the tracking apps, the detailed records I'd been building. I can do better than photos. That evening, I followed Carla to her book club meeting, which turned out to be dinner at Romano's, the most romantic restaurant in town, with Jared. I sat at the bar, nursing a beer and watching them share dessert like teenagers in love. They were so absorbed in each other that they never noticed me, even when Jared got up to use the restroom and walked right past my table. I got clear photos with my phone, videos of them holding hands across the table, audio recordings of their conversation about weekend plans. But the best evidence came when they left the restaurant. Jared's BMW was parked under a streetlight, and they spent 5 minutes saying goodbye like it was the end of a romantic movie, kissing, touching, making promises about their next meeting. I recorded it all from across the street, high-definition video that would leave no doubt about the nature of their relationship. On the drive home, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Excitement. Not the kind Carla was chasing with her affair, but the satisfaction of a plan coming together perfectly. Tomorrow, the real fun would begin. I woke up Saturday morning with the clarity of someone who had finally stopped pretending everything was fine. Carla was already up, making coffee and scrolling through her phone with the kind of smile that used to be reserved for me. "Sleep well?" she asked without looking up. "Best night's sleep I've had in months," I said, and meant it. She glanced at me, something flickering across her face. "You seem different today. Just feeling good about life. Sometimes you need a reminder that there's excitement out there." Her coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. Those were her exact words from yesterday, thrown back at her with surgical precision. "Right," she said slowly. "Well, I'm meeting Monica for shopping today. Girls' Day." Monica. Carla's best friend and partner in crime, the one who'd been covering for her affair and probably encouraging it. Another name on my list. "Sounds fun. I'm going to work on some projects around the house. Don't wait up if we decide to make it a late night. Wouldn't dream of it." After she left, I drove to Gina's apartment. She lived above the bar in a cozy space filled with books, plants, and the kind of comfortable clutter that made you want to stay for hours. "Phase 1 starts today," she said, handing me coffee and a cinnamon roll. "I've already talked to 3 of the wives on our list. They're very interested in what Jared's been up to lately." "How interested?" "Jennifer Walsh's husband owns the biggest construction company in town. Half of Jared's real estate deals depend on Tom Walsh's goodwill. When Tom finds out Jared went after his wife 2 years ago and is now targeting other married women, Jared's business is finished. That's just the beginning. Mrs. Henderson's son is a lawyer who specializes in real estate fraud, and the elementary school teacher's husband is on the city planning committee that approves new developments." I was starting to understand the beautiful complexity of small-town justice. Everyone was connected, and betraying one person meant betraying an entire network of relationships. "What about Mrs. Harkness?" Gina grinned. "She's expecting a special delivery this afternoon." At 2:00, I parked across from Mrs. Harkness's house and watched as a delivery truck pulled up to her front door. The driver handed her a manila envelope, the kind used for legal documents or important papers. Through my binoculars, I watched her open the envelope and examine the contents. Her expression went from curiosity to shock to righteous anger in the space of 30 seconds. The envelope contained printed photos from last night's dinner, along with a note explaining that a concerned neighbor thought she should know what was happening right under everyone's noses. Mrs. Harkness was on her phone within 5 minutes. By 4:00, my own phone was buzzing with calls and texts from people I hadn't heard from in months. Word was spreading through town like wildfire, just as Gina had predicted. "Alex, this is terrible," said Betty from the hardware store. "I can't believe Carla would do this to you." "I heard about the photos," texted my old college buddy Mike. "If you need anything, let me know." "That bastard Jared finally got caught," wrote Tom Walsh. "Good riddance." I responded to each message with the same tone of hurt confusion, playing the role of the betrayed husband who was just learning the truth along with everyone else. The masterpiece came at 6 o'clock, when Carla called me from Monica's car. "Alex, people are saying crazy things about me," she said, her voice tight with panic. "Someone's spreading rumors that I'm having an affair." "What? That's ridiculous. Who would say something like that?" "I don't know, but it's all over town. Mrs. Patterson stopped me at the grocery store and asked if it was true. The cashier at the pharmacy was giving me dirty looks." "Honey, you know how people in small towns love to gossip. It'll blow over." "But Alex, what if people believe it? What if this affects my job?" Her job. Of course, that's what she was worried about. Not our marriage, not my feelings, but her precious career and reputation. "We'll figure it out," I said. "Are you coming home?" "Monica thinks I should stay at her place tonight. Let things cool down." "Whatever you think is best." After she hung up, I sat in my workshop surrounded by monitors showing empty rooms and silent phones. For the first time in months, I was alone in my house without feeling lonely. Gina called at 8. "How's our girl handling the spotlight?" she asked. "About as well as you'd expect. She's hiding at Monica's." "Good, because tomorrow is when things get really interesting." "What happens tomorrow?" "Church." Sunday morning arrived gray and drizzling, the kind of weather that made our small New England town look like a movie set for a gothic thriller. I put on my best suit, the navy one Carla had picked out for me 2 Christmases ago, and drove to St. Mary's for the first time in months. Carla and I had stopped going to church regularly after the first few years of marriage, but I knew she'd maintained friendships with several of the congregation members. More importantly, I knew that Sunday service was where the real business of our town got conducted, in whispered conversations before and after the formal worship. I arrived early and took a seat in the middle section, close enough to be seen but not so prominent as to appear attention-seeking. The church filled slowly with familiar faces, and I could feel the weight of their glances, the careful way conversations stopped when I came within earshot. "Mrs. Henderson approached me before the service began. "Alex, dear, I'm so sorry about what you're going through," she said, her voice pitched low but not so low that nearby parishioners couldn't hear. "If there's anything you need, anything at all." "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. I appreciate the support." "That Jared Lane," she continued, shaking her head. "Some men have no respect for the sanctity of marriage." Behind her, I could see other congregation members nodding in agreement. The story had taken on a life of its own, growing and evolving with each retelling. By now, Jared wasn't just having an affair with my wife. He was a serial homewrecker who'd been targeting married women throughout the community. The service began, and I found myself actually listening to Pastor William's sermon about forgiveness and redemption. The irony wasn't lost on me, sitting in church while orchestrating the systematic destruction of my wife's reputation. But as I looked around at the faces of people I'd known for years, good people who valued honesty, commitment, and community, I felt justified in my actions. Carla had betrayed not just me, but the values that held our small town together. After the service, I was surrounded by well-wishers and supporters. Tom Walsh shook my hand firmly and promised that Jared would never get another construction contract in this town. Jennifer Walsh hugged me and invited me to dinner anytime I needed a home-cooked meal. "You deserve so much better than this," she said. Carla never appreciated what she had. The most satisfying moment came when I overheard Monica's mother talking to a group of women near the church entrance. "I always thought that girl was trouble," Mrs. Foster was saying. "The way she encouraged Carla to go out all the time, leaving poor Alex at home. I told Monica she needed better friends." Monica, who had been Carla's closest ally and confidant, was now being ostracized by her own mother. The affair was creating ripple effects throughout the community, damaging relationships and reputations far beyond just Carla and Jared. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. The house was still empty. Carla was apparently still hiding at Monica's, so I spent the afternoon in my workshop, monitoring the surveillance feeds and planning the next phase. At 4 o'clock, Jared's BMW pulled into my driveway. I watched through the window as he sat in his car for several minutes, probably gathering courage for whatever confrontation he'd planned. He was dressed casually, jeans and a polo shirt, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he kept checking his phone. Finally, he got out and walked to my front door. The doorbell rang twice before I answered, taking my time to appear calm and slightly confused. "Jared," I said, as if surprised to see him. "What brings you by?" He was trying to project confidence, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. "We need to talk, Alex." "About what?" "You know what? This campaign you're running against me and Carla?" I stepped back and gestured for him to come in. "I'm not sure what you mean, but come in. Can I get you a beer?" He followed me into the living room, his eyes darting around like he expected to find evidence of surveillance equipment. If only he knew how right he was. "Cut the innocent act," he said. "Those photos, the rumors, the way everyone in town suddenly knows our business. That's not a coincidence." "Photos?" I sat down in my favorite chair, the one that gave me the best angle on the hidden cameras. "Jared, I think you need to explain what's going on here. Don't play dumb. Someone's been following us, taking pictures, spreading stories, and it all started right after people began talking about me and Carla." I leaned forward, putting on my best expression of confused concern. "Are you telling me that you and my wife are having an affair?" The question hung in the air between us. Jared's face went through several expressions: anger, fear, calculation, before settling on defiance. "She's not happy, Alex. She hasn't been happy for years. You've been taking her for granted, treating her like a piece of furniture." Those were Carla's words, thrown back at me by her lover. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd expected, but I kept my voice level. "So you decided to help her with that unhappiness? She deserves better than what you've been giving her. And you think you're better?" "I know I am." I stood up slowly, letting the full weight of my anger show for the first time. "You know what, Jared? You're right. Carla does deserve better. She deserves a husband who respects her enough to ask for a divorce before sleeping with other people. She deserves a community that can trust her word. She deserves a reputation built on honesty instead of lies. Alex. But she's not going to get any of that, is she? Because she chose you instead. She chose excitement over integrity, passion over commitment. And now everyone knows it." Jared took a step backward. "You can't destroy her life just because you're hurt. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just making sure the truth comes out. Everything that's happening to Carla and to you is a direct result of your own choices. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Your business is finished in this town. Your reputation is shot, and my wife is about to learn that actions have consequences." After he left, I poured myself a whiskey and sat in my workshop, reviewing the footage of our conversation. Tomorrow, edited highlights would find their way to several key people in town, including Jared's business partners and the licensing board Gina had mentioned. But the real satisfaction would come when Carla finally came home and faced the reality of what her choices had cost her. I didn't have to wait long. Carla came home Monday evening looking like she'd aged 5 years in 3 days. Her makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes, and her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail that screamed defeat. She found me in the kitchen, making dinner for one. "We need to talk," she said. I figured we would eventually. "Hungry? I made plenty." She stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "How are you so calm about this?" "About what?" "Alex, stop. Just stop with the innocent act. I know you're behind everything that's been happening." I turned off the stove and faced her fully. "What exactly do you think I'm behind? The photos, the rumors, the way everyone in town is treating me like I have the plague. Jared thinks you hired a private investigator. Did you need a private investigator to tell people you were having an affair? Because it seemed pretty obvious to anyone who was paying attention." She flinched. "It's not what you think." "Really? What is it then?" It's Complicated. I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. Complicated. That's what we're calling it? Alex, I never meant for this to happen. It just developed over time. How much time? Months? A year? She looked down at her hands. About 8 months. 8 months. 2/3 of a year of lies, deception, and betrayal. 8 months of coming home to me every night, kissing me goodbye every morning, playing the role of loving wife while planning her next rendezvous. 8 months, I repeated. And in all that time, it never occurred to you to just ask for a divorce? I didn't want to hurt you. But lying to me for 8 months, making me look like a fool in front of the entire town, that wouldn't hurt me. I thought maybe it would just run its course, that I could figure out what I wanted without disrupting everything. Without disrupting your comfortable life, you mean? Without giving up the house, the financial security, the respectability of being married? Her silence was answer enough. So what's the plan now, Carla? Are you leaving me for Jared? It's complicated. Let me guess. Now that everyone knows about the affair, he's not as interested in the excitement. Hard to be the other man when there's no marriage left to hide behind. The look on her face told me I'd hit the target dead center. He says he needs time to think, she admitted. Time to think. Of course he does. Because now he'd have to actually commit to something instead of just playing around with other men's wives. Alex, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But we can work through this. We can go to counseling. Start over. Start over? I set down my beer and looked at her with genuine curiosity. Why would I want to start over with someone who spent 8 months lying to me? Someone who told her lover that I was boring, predictable like a piece of furniture? She went pale. You heard that? I heard a lot of things, Carla. Amazing what you can learn when you start paying attention. How long have you known? Does it matter? The question is, what happens now? She straightened her shoulders, trying to summon some of her old confidence. I want to save our marriage. Why? Because I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the security I represent, the life we built together, but you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have spent 8 months with another man. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Carla. This was a choice. You chose to lie to me every day for 8 months. You chose to risk our marriage, our reputation, our entire life together for excitement with a man who's already backing away now that things got complicated. She started crying then, not the pretty tears of a woman trying to manipulate a situation, but the ugly, desperate sobs of someone who'd finally realized the full scope of what they'd lost. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. Sorry everyone knows. Sorry Jared isn't willing to ride off into the sunset with you. But are you sorry you betrayed me? Are you sorry you threw away 15 years of marriage for 8 months of excitement? She couldn't answer, which was answer enough. I'll be staying at Monica's while we figure out the logistics, she said finally. Good idea. I think that's best for both of us. She went upstairs to pack a bag, and I listened to her moving around our bedroom, gathering clothes and toiletries for what we both knew would be more than a temporary stay. When she came back down, suitcase in hand, she paused at the front door. For what it's worth, you're not boring, Alex. You're not predictable. What you did, this whole thing, I never saw it coming. Good, I said. I'd hate to disappoint you again. After she left, I sat in my quiet house and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. The marriage was over, had been over since the moment Carla decided I wasn't enough for her. But now it was officially over, and I could start planning what came next. My phone buzzed with a text from Gina. How did it go? It's done, I replied. Good. Jared's real estate license is under review, by the way. Turns out there were some irregularities in several of his recent deals. Amazing what people notice when they start looking closely. I smiled and poured myself another whiskey. Justice wasn't always swift, but when it came, it was thorough. The next morning, I filed for divorce. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in October, exactly 1 year after I'd first heard Carla laugh about talking to other guys. She got half of everything, as expected, but half of a damaged reputation and a life in ruins wasn't worth much. Jared's real estate business had collapsed within 2 months of the scandal breaking. The licensing board had found enough irregularities to suspend his license, and his former clients had filed several lawsuits alleging fraud and misrepresentation. He'd left town in August, owing money to half the businesses on Main Street. Carla had tried to rebuild her life, but small towns have long memories. She'd been forced to resign from her HR position after several employees filed complaints about her judgment and trustworthiness. Last I heard, she was working at a call center in the next town over and living in a studio apartment. Monica had moved to Boston, claiming she needed a fresh start after her mother disowned her for her role in the affair. As for me, I'd discovered that being the wronged party in a small-town scandal came with unexpected benefits. My phone repair business had tripled in size, fueled by customers who wanted to support the local guy who'd been done wrong. I'd started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it was nice to remember what it felt like to be appreciated. I was closing up the shop on a Friday evening when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. "Alex, it's Carla." I hadn't heard her voice in 3 months, not since the final divorce hearing. "What can I do for you, Carla?" I wanted to apologize. Really apologize. Not just because I got caught or because things didn't work out the way I planned. Okay. I threw away the best thing in my life because I was bored and selfish and stupid. I hurt the one person who never deserved it, and I destroyed everything good we had together. Yes, you did. I know it doesn't change anything, but I needed you to know that I understand what I lost. I understand what I did to you, to us, to myself. I looked out the window of my shop at the town square, where people were walking home from work, stopping to chat with neighbors, living the kind of honest, connected life that Carla had thrown away. "I appreciate you saying that," I said finally. Do you think there's any chance we could try again? Start over? Do it right this time?" The question hung in the air for a long moment. A year ago, even 6 months ago, I might have considered it. Might have been tempted by the familiar comfort of our shared history, the easier path of forgiveness and reconciliation. No, Carla, there's not. Alex, you made your choice. You chose excitement over commitment, lies over honesty, Jared over me. Those choices had consequences, and those consequences don't just disappear because you're sorry now. But people can change. Maybe they can. But trust, once broken, doesn't just heal because we want it to. You taught me that. She was quiet for a long time. I hope you find someone who appreciates what they have. I hope you learn to appreciate what you had. After she hung up, I locked up the shop and walked home through the quiet streets of my small town, the same streets where everyone now knew my story, where I'd been forced to rebuild my reputation and my life from scratch. But as I walked, I realized something that would have surprised me a year ago. I was genuinely happy. Not the comfortable contentment I'd mistaken for happiness during my marriage, but real satisfaction with my life and my choices. Carla had been right about one thing. I wasn't boring or predictable. When pushed, I'd proven capable of strategic thinking, careful planning, and ruthless execution. I'd dismantled her affair and Jared's business with surgical precision, using nothing but the truth and the natural consequences of their own actions. She'd laughed about talking to other guys, confident that I'd never find out, never fight back, never be anything more than the comfortable husband she could take for granted. She wasn't laughing now.